Clubhouse Chatter continues here on this Sunday morning. Here, once again, Norm Ordez.
Hey, that's right. Once again, Mr. Joe Piazza sitting in studio with us.
What's going on, guys?
And producer Brian. Hey, we got something a little bit different for you for this episode. And so we have a rodeo entertainer slash rodeo clown.
A professional rodeo
Professional, yes. JJ Harrison, one of the best in the business. JJ, how you doing?
I'm great. I love it. I'm something different. You know, right off the bat, I'm just like, that's the perfect introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, here comes something different.
Well, our crowd is mainly, you know, we've gotten into the baseball. We've had some musicians on with the you know, baseball passion and stuff. And so I saw something come across the Facebook on you a couple of weeks ago, and you know, and you're a local guy, you're a Northwest guy out of Washington, and we're down here in Oregon. And so I reached out to you, and one of the first things that JJ said to me, and he goes, I get my trucks out of McMinnville.
That's close
and
by.
So
Yeah.
Jim Doran, you get your trucks out of Jim Doran. How long you been doing that?
About 4 years, maybe 5. You know, and I've got a lot of different, my job, a lot of it, you know, you have partners that kind of help you do your job and whatnot. And one thing that I use is a truck a lot. And so having a guy that stands behind you, you know, I've never had a truck break down, and I keep fairly new trucks. But if one did, I mean, the thing I like about Jim is that number one, his staff is great, but I almost feel like that guy would literally get in his own truck and drive to Montana to help me fix a flat tire. You know, I mean,
He probably would.
You know, he just stands behind everything, and he's just such a good guy. And so, you know, I've got other dealerships that I've come close to working with, but none of them impressed me like he did. And it's been a great partnership. I love these Chevys. I drove a Chevy for a couple years. I had the 15, 16 Chevy, and then I switched back to the Ram truck. And he sells them all, so, you know, he's got such a good selection. And I'm a pilot fanatic, too. And so McMinnville is really fun because of your Evergreen Air Museum, and it's just a great place to be.
So Jim Doran's actually a big baseball fan, if you didn't know that. I work with the McMinnville Parks and Rec Department doing baseball, and he coached baseball through our recreation department for a number of years. We call Jim the Tan Man because he's got this tan. He's always tanned. He's got a tanning bed in his house.
Oh,
and so,
sure.
Like I said, one of the great guys, you know, great businessman, great guy, and I honestly do believe that he would get in his truck and drive up to Montana to help you change that flat.
Yeah, he would for sure. But
so, Jay,
big baseball game last night. You want to talk some baseball?
Absolutely.
I was a baseball story real quick. Went to the game last night and was literally called out of the crowd to umpire the game. So I don't know if any of you have huge stories like that, but they literally this mom selected me, and with that kind of, I mean, these are 9-year-olds, of course, but this was the chance of a lifetime for me to umpire. And I stood behind the pitcher and called balls and strikes, and you know, I'm gonna admit it up front. I was terrible. I forgot. Do the balls go for? Is it 3-0 or would that be a strikeout? Or, you know, I mean, I was terrible. But it was the first time I'd ever been selected for such an honor right out of the crowd. I was plucked out of the crowd, people. So it was a really big deal for me. I don't know if I'm going to go pro now. I don't know the scouts. You know, I'm sure there was talent scouts watching me. But
well, I think you'd be kind of a natural at it with your natural entertainment, you know, skills. Being able to, make those strikeouts look pretty interesting, you know.
Well, one of my favorite movies of all time was Major League. So that, you know, these 9-year-olds, they're pitching for the first time ever. They're throwing it 6 feet inside, outside.
Right.
And every time that would happen, I'd go just a bit outside.
That's funny.
All I could think was that Eubanks guy, you know, or whatever.
Bob Uecker, yeah.
Uecker, yeah.
So you've got a little bit of a baseball background. You played in high school.
Played a lot in high school. Loved football. Loved baseball. And I would probably figure out a way to implement baseball into my job but I can get a Nerf football and throw it back and forth with the crowd.
Right.
And kind of keep people engaged, keep them connected. I don't know if I could just throw a line drive baseball up into the crowd. It might.
No,
I could break your nose. Well,
they might have to sign a waiver.
Yes, a waiver. That's a great idea. Maybe I could.
You need to incorporate like one of those big, oversized baseball gloves somehow.
Yeah, there you go. Big Nerf
there
baseball.
You go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who can hit the glove? Stand in the middle and give everybody a Nerf something, or heck, maybe even a baseball. Who knows? But if they can hit me, I'm wearing a cup, by the way. But if they can hit the glove, they win a prize or something. That's a good idea.
So now, how does one get into being a rodeo clown?
Basically, just be too lazy to work and too scared to steal.
Okay.
I guess it'd probably
I'm halfway
be the
there.
best way to describe it. The funny thing about me is I've got a master's in education, and I was a school teacher for 8 years. And so I'm not the typical rodeo path. My family we're a little ag family, but we weren't big cattle industry people, cattle barons of Texas or nothing like that. Small town kid out of northern Okanagan County up in northern Washington is where I grew up and played all my sports. And, I was probably one of the best things to ever happen to Okanagan football and baseball, because when I graduated, the teams actually got good. So they can thank me for a lot of that.
So you...
I did.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
So I was going to tell you, I still hold a record up in Okanagan with 11 sacks in one game, and it was probably one of my worst games. Of course, I was a quarterback, so that wasn't really a record you want to have.
No, that's wrong side of the field for that, yeah.
But still very impressive.
So you taught science in middle school, is that correct?
I did, yeah. I taught science and social studies, and I the middle school kid is one, you either love them or you hate them.
Right.
There's no real middle ground, and lucky for me, I'm an idiot that probably should be on Ritalin myself, and so I love that age. I love that age. I just think that those are the kids that they're smart enough to argue with you, but they're too dumb to win still.
Right.
They get into high school, they can actually argue and maybe be right. And
Brian's laughing on that. Brian's a school teacher as well. He teaches high school, so he knows where you're coming from.
It takes a special person to teach middle school.
It's special ed.
Something different.
Oh, I got respect for you.
So
I loved it though, and that's why I did all my coaching. And I tell you what, I coached every sport. I coached football, basketball, baseball, wrestling. I coached wrestling. I've never wrestled in my life. I didn't know what to do, but I would get kids to turn out, and that was my thing. Was I didn't want a kid, especially, and you guys know this better than anybody. You don't want kids having idle hands, and nothing is better than sports. Nothing. Mm-hmm. To keep a kid with the practice, the team camaraderie, all that stuff. Sports just literally is the best possible thing you can do with a kid that's got a lot of energy, and so.
No doubt. So I read somewhere that you enjoy middle school humor more than the kids do. Did you?
Oh man!
Do you use that did that kind of help motivate you to get into the rodeo business?
There's nothing funnier than a poop joke every now and then. It just is it. I guarantee you, if you're sitting in the studio, one of you rips a fart right now, you're going to laugh. It's funny stuff. And that's middle school humor, but it works, man. It just, you can get into the biggest crowd. You can be with diplomats. You can be with teenagers. It doesn't matter. They're all going to giggle when you make fun of the bull squirting dookie as he leaves the arena, or a pickup man's horse dropping a pile of crap, and I run over and bury it and make fun of the pickup. What kind of pickup man are you? All you do is drop stuff. Simple little goofy stuff like that, but it works, and you learn a lot of that from the middle school age brain. That's where some of the best comedy I have comes from that. And it was funny because when I was teaching school, I was always telling kids, find something you love to do and make a career out of it.
Right.
You might work a couple crap jobs to get you there, but if you love talking baseball, find a job where you talk baseball. If you like digging holes, find a job where you get to run a tractor and play in the dirt. Find something you like and make a career out of it. And the kid busted me on that. Connor Holbrook, I'll never forget him. No, so it don't matter, but he's a baseball player. But he busted me in class. He's like, Harrison, you're always telling us, but you're a rodeo guy. They all knew I rodeoed on the side and was a cowboy. You're a rodeo guy, but you're not doing that. And I got to thinking about it. Man, I do love this. I love entertaining people. I love being a rodeo clown. I love being an entertainer. So maybe I'm not following my best advice, And so it was pretty neat to get called out on the carpet by a
so that was
10-year-old.
That was the one middle schooler that was smart enough to argue with you, huh?
Yeah, and he beat me.
To beat you, I should say.
Worked out pretty good.
And so here you are now entertaining folks at rodeos, and I mean, that's a tough gig.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you got to be a super athlete to do what you do.
Yes and no. I mean, you do. I think I give a lot of credit to bullfighters. Those guys are the ones that are stepping in. They're the first line of defense. They're the president's Secret Service type stuff.
Right.
They take the bullet, and they'll go in when the bull rider's hung up. And generally my job as a barrel man is to kind of hang back, entertain the crowd, keep things going until that bull gets a little bit too far out away from the fence. And then when a rider gets thrown down, you got to remember the bull's spinning. So no matter what, the bull's dizzy, you're dizzy as a rider. So it definitely, when you jump up and you're trying to run to the fence, you're not going to necessarily make it. And so you come to the barrel, and my job is to take the hit. My job is to get the bull's attention, and I've mastered the hat throw. I don't know how. Cowboy hat. With a felt cowboy hat, I swear I can knock a dust off a fly at 30 yards. I don't know. I just practice it enough, I guess, and I just whip the hat. I can usually hit a bull in the face or right near his head, and it brings his attention off of what he's looking at, and he'll come either hit me or the hat will distract him, and off he goes. But the reality is we're just trying to make sure that we've got one of the most dangerous things we're doing in the world, and we just want to make it as safe as we possibly can. But inevitably, somebody gets hurt riding bulls. It happens.
Right. So as someone who rodeoed yourself, who were the guys that you looked up to? Like, I remember growing up in Twin Falls, Idaho, and like I said, I grew up going to the Twin Falls County Fair and Rodeo, and Tough Hedeman and all those guys, and
I work with Tough. I do. He does CDRs. I see him all the time.
And Lane Frost, rest in peace. I've seen those guys ride. I grew up with Mark and Matt McKinley, who rode bulls early on in the 80s, 90s, and stuff like that. So I grew up with some of the rodeos. My dad was friends with Jack Jones and Barney Ecker, who were some old-timer rodeo guys. So who were the guys you looked up to?
I think Mike Beers was always a hero of mine. I think he's been in the NFR 23 times or something. He had a line of saddles he made with Crate at Saddley, and I know I had one of his saddles when I was in high school. And I always like Mike, and it's fun now because this year he just got inducted, or he's going to be inducted 2017 Hall of Fame, and so I think that's a really cool thing. His son Brandon still rodeos a bunch, and you'll still see Mike out rodeoing a lot. He broke his back, his hip, he's had all kinds of injuries over the years, but I still think he's one of the most consistent ropers of all time. And
one of the greats, absolutely.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of guys. You get into the rough stock. Obviously, Ty Murray's name comes up. One of the winningest guys ever. I really admire Trevor Brazil. He's the all-time cowboy of all. I mean, that guy has won more than anybody else. He's done it in an extremely competitive environment, and he's literally just the most decorated cowboy of all time. And he's so humble. He really is. He's a nice man. He's guarded. He's guarded like anybody, I would call him a celebrity, and like any celebrity, they're a little guarded. But once you are in, once he knows you've got a friend for life, and you got somebody that's very humble, and he works hard. Like anybody. You look at a lot of the professional athletes. It's the ones that continue to work hard, even when they've attained success, even when they've won a world championship or a national championship. They're still the ones that you find in the gym. And so there's something admirable about that, and that definitely hits home with me. And so, it's just a few of them, but there's always more.
Those are pretty good ones. I mean, Trevor Brazil, that's a name I haven't heard in a few years.
Yeah, I don't know about it. I don't know enough about rodeo.
I don't follow, since my dad passed away a couple of years ago, I don't keep in touch with rodeo. My mom and dad would watch it all the time. My dad was totally into the rodeo, and so especially around the NFR time, I'd find myself over at their place watching the NFR in December, and good stuff. I mean, like I said, some of the friends, Sean Davis, College of Southern Idaho. I mean, these are guys I grew up with. These are guys I grew up knowing and watching, and so. Right. Even though I didn't participate in rodeo, it was what we did as a family.
Yeah.
And so, and I haven't been to a rodeo in years, and you come over to St. Paul every year, and I've been here almost 30 years, and I've probably been over to St. Paul rodeo maybe a couple of times. It's just
well, you're coming this year, so we're gonna fix that.
Absolutely. We'd love to come up over there, and they do a great job. The Malala Buckaroo, and man, I mean, rodeo's still alive and well over here, and you're one of the bigger entertainers that's in the
came out of this area
in right
Pacific Northwest.
And so what do you do to stay in shape? What do you do to help stay in shape? I mean, are you a CrossFitter? Do you get in the gym?
I do. I'm a gym rat. I like, I'll be honest. When I was younger, I wanted the muscles. I wanted to lift a bunch of weights, and that was my thing. I thought that if you had a bunch of muscle, you were in shape. And then I got a job where I kind of run for a living, and I realized that sometimes when you're big and bulky, you might be able to crank a home run instead of a triple, but you got to carry all that weight. And so now I'm more of an endurance guy. A lot of my working out is my every weekend. It's my job, and so that kind of forces you to stay in shape. But I love to go down and play basketball.
Right.
So I'll go every day at the YMCA here in town. I'll go down, and they call it noon ball, and it's a bunch of guys that understand there's no big trophy at the end of this, but we play hard against each other, and it keeps you in shape for sure. Because there's just if you're a competitive guy, sports you'll find that you'll work out better in a competition than you will if you just go down. I'm just going to go run some lines down at the gym and shoot some hoops. You won't do anything,
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
At least that's the way I am. But if it's a game, man, I'm sprinting up and down the court. I'm trying my best to my team to win. So I end up getting a better workout. But that's definitely one thing. And I appreciate the compliment, being one of the better entertainers. There's a lot of guys that do my job, and they're scattered all over the country. But I've been really fortunate in that my brand of comedy, I guess you would say, is an off-the-cuff, wing it type of atmosphere, and I think that it's been well received in a lot of places. But I don't go. I'm a businessman, so I don't go to Texas. I mean, I don't, unless I'm doing like a CBR, which is Tough Hedeman's Championship bull riding, where I can fly to the event. I understand that the further I drive that Jim Duran vehicle, the more expense I've got.
Right.
So it's and that's the difference between my job. With other sports, they're paid and they get on a plane and they go compete in New Hampshire, and then they'll drive down to Tennessee and then back to SoCal. So it's like, with me, the further I go, the more my expenses are.
Right.
So I try to stay in the Northwest. A lot of the best rodeos in the world, to be honest with you, are right here in the Northwest. And St. Paul, coincidentally, is rated the number 1 4th of July rodeo in the world. So
yes.
Oh wow.
I say the world is like Afghanistan's over there throwing rodeos together. I mean, we're hard to say the world because we're the only country that really has rodeo, but. I should take that back. You know what? Australia has a bunch of rodeos.
Brazil. There's a lot of Brazilians.
Brazil, exactly. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
A lot of cowboys coming out of Brazil. Yeah.
Now, you're not just multifaceted because you went from being a teacher to being a rodeo entertainer. You have done pretty much every event in rodeo besides barrel racing. Is that correct?
I've tried them all. Yeah. I started with the bull riding. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I wanted to be a bull rider because I had a passion for riding bulls or if I thought it would help me get girls. I think probably the second. I don't have – some guys have it, man. They have this desire to beat the beast, tame the beast, ride him, stay with him for 8 seconds, and I don't. I just wanted to not get hurt and do well enough that some girl would say, "Hey, cowboy." So
you're all in it for the "Hey, cowboy," huh?
That's right. Hey, cowboy.
It takes a different person to ride a bull, and we were talking a little bit about this, and so we're friends with a stuntman out of Southern California by the name of Eddie Braun, and Eddie just jumped the Snake River Canyon a la Evel Knievel style back in September, and successfully. And so we think that, the rodeo, or not just necessarily the bull rider, but, I mean, even doing what you're doing has something in common with the daredevil.
Yeah.
Evel Knievel. And so, it takes a special person to do something like that. I remember Mark McKinley growing up. He had busted up his hips. Mm-hmm. And I want to say up in Canada somewhere. And I remember seeing him a summer when I was a kid growing up. He had the bar between his leg, and he was trying to heal up. And I mean, God, that is so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of the injuries. I mean, what is the worst injury that you've had to deal with?
Probably my back. I was up in Canada, in Abbotsford, British Columbia, and it was such a stupid thing. It's a crappy situation, not so much a good story. But at the end of the rodeo, they'd had a bull in the chutes they couldn't get out on. They couldn't. What that means is the rider couldn't get out. The bull was throwing too big a tantrum, smashed him in the chute. Couldn't give him a fair shot to get out, so they ended up rolling him to a different bull. Well, this bull that was really juicy, and a little Bramer out of Donnie Kish's breeding line, was just hot. And at the end of the rodeo, I was walked out, saying goodbye to people. I've always got an extra Nerf football, or if I do, I always try and find a kid to give it to. And I was just saying goodbye to people, and all of a sudden everybody's faces just got huge, and I couldn't understand. And about split second later, I turned around and that bull they'd let him out. And they let him out kind of, not on accident. They meant to let him out, but of course nobody wanted, some poor committee guy that volunteers his time is the one that about killed me. But the bull came running, and at 70 yards, full speed, running as fast as he could, hit me directly in the back and flung me. They estimated 15 feet in the air. I landed like a sack of taters, and then he just went to mashing on me. And the pickup man had left, the bullfighters had left at the end of the rodeo, and so luckily the pickup man saw it happen and tried to run in there, and it fractured 2 of the vertebrae and pushed a disc out, like a bulge or whatever they call it, doesn't matter. And it's just been an ongoing battle. That's one of the things that has just kind of sucked. But back to your tough rodeo story, and it's not that I'm some big bad A son of a gun. It's just, this is my job, and if I don't work, I don't get paid. So that happened on a Sunday in British Columbia, and I worked a rodeo the following Thursday in Omak, Washington.
On a broken back.
Wow.
Just to be clear, it was fractured. It wasn't completely,
Right.
Only a fractured back. Okay.
Just a fracture. You put a brace on it, take some morphine, and go do your job. And I definitely knew that I had a problem, and then it's just kind of been ongoing. And now I get injections, like a lot of baseball guys get injections in the shoulder and stuff to keep you going. It gives you a few extra years. That's probably what I'm doing. I know I'll have to have another surgery. But, I've had a hip surgery. My knees have been worked on 3 times. I'm due for a shoulder surgery, but that can wait. But I think that's anybody, man. If you're not wore out when you die, you screwed something up.
Right, absolutely. I want to give a shout out. Somebody that gets overlooked on the rodeo circuit is the doctors and the medical staff.
Definitely.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I've heard from quite a few cowboys that they are good at what they do.
Right.
Oh, incredible. And Justin Boots puts their money where their mouth is with that. And they do what's called the Justin Sports Medicine Team. And there's a guy named Rick Foster that kind of heads that up. And what they do is they go into each community that has the rodeo that brings them in, and they reach out to local physicians. They reach out to local orthopedic people, and so they get doctors to come in and volunteer. And what's crazy is, these are some of the best doctors in the area that they're at. And but the thing about medical people is they want to see medical accidents. That's what they so when we give them a sport that creates a lot of those, well, sometimes it's kind of fun to work on these guys. And, it's been a massively successful program for the Cowboy because it's free.
Right.
The
And professional rodeo athletes are nowhere near compensated what professional baseball. I mean, an entry-level Major League Baseball player, the lowest in the league is probably $100,000 more than one of our, some of our higher-paid Cowboys, and so it's massively helpful. All the injections that I've had, it's I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say it, but I've got all these doctors that are kind of around the country, and whenever I'm in their area and they work on me, I've got an insurance, but I know it's crappy, and they'll do insurance only.
Right.
They'll see what they can get out of my insurance company and never charge me a dime. And I don't know that I could do my job with the injuries and had the work done by these great physicians without that, because, it is expensive, and these guys are just, I take care of them in other ways and get them, rodeo tickets and try and get them to, do nice things for their kids and things like that. But I know it's nowhere near what they're giving me. And so I've been blessed like that. And I think there's a lot of people in the medical industry that you're exactly right. They get, even if overlooked isn't a word, they get underappreciated.
Right.
Definitely.
Well, you look at, rodeoing, it's a high injury sport.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
like I say, I watched a video of Tough getting tossed around, and I know damn well that Tough was hurting from that, and you could tell. But, just the medical staff, all the guys that they've saved, and you've seen it more than, probably most of us. There's a ton of guys that are alive because of the quick acting medical staff.
Medicine,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
So now we've talked about St. Paul. Where's your favorite rodeo at? Is it St. Paul?
My favorite rodeo of all time is Sisters, Oregon. And I say that, and that's the dumbest thing you can do when you're a rodeo guy is to tell one rodeo he's your favorite, because the other 45 rodeos that you do just huffed up like little middle school girls. But I'll tell you why. Sisters was the very first big-scale rodeo that I ever did. And they took a chance on me. And they said, they took the advice of a great sound man, an Oregon guy named Jason Buchanan, who I'd worked with at an amateur rodeo, and he helped them kind of get me in there, as well as the stock contractor said, hey, there's this idiot you guys should try, And so I did my first year, and the things about Sisters, number one, if you don't know where Sisters is, it's right outside of Bend.
Yes.
It's the second weekend in June. That's the dates of the rodeo. It sits in a gorgeous location. It's hidden in this little grove of ponderosa pine trees. The arena is just absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
You can see the three snow-capped Sisters peaks from the grandstands. It's just a beautiful location. But then what you do is you mix in this Bend crowd, and Bend is I don't know if you've been down there recently, but it's nuts, man. It's just growth like you wouldn't believe, and it's got a little cosmopolitan mixed with cowboy. And it brings in some college kids. It just brings in a massive energy. So this rodeo just, people travel all over to come there just because of the crowd. They're so into it. They're so involved. And, I walk out and people start yelling at me and they don't stop till I leave, at the end of the rodeo. So it's just, I've done it 10 years. This will be my 11th year. It's always been the rodeo. When people ask me, I always say it's my favorite. And that's not to say that Clovis, California is an awesome one. Sheridan, Wyoming, Kennewick, Washington, Omak. I've got tons of rodeos. Reno is a huge rodeo, biggest summer rodeo that we have in the PRCA, and I get the honor of working that one the next few years. And it's every rodeo is really special in its own way, right? And every rodeo has its grueling aspects as well. The stuff that's just like either it's the drive to get there, or it's a long show, or there's always up and down with any job, except for radio host. That job is just cakewalk, I think.
It is. And I'll tell you what, Sisters is everything that you mentioned and more. It's a special place.
It's a beautiful
area. And so my family every summer will go to we'll go to Bend for a week usually, and
gorgeous area.
Have a great time. Love spending time down in the desert and stuff like that. It's Sisters Rodeo is good. It's good. There's a lot of good caliber cowboys out of that area in the Redmond Bend area.
Mm-hmm. Huge, yeah. Stephen Peebles, world champion bareback rider, Bobby Moat. A lot of them are, like Austin Foss is one that is also in that area. And, I mean, that guy's been to the NFR a bunch. He's going to end up winning a world title before his career's over. And so rough stock-wise, a lot of them. And there's a ton of ropers. Sam Willis is, I think, a legendary cowboy. And he's such a good family man that this guy, I don't know if you know him, he lived in Terrebonne, Oregon, big metropolis there. And he's got two outstanding competitive rodeo daughters. But this guy could be going down the road. The last 20 years, he could have been PRCA rodeoing himself and traveling the country and competing at the NFR and so forth. But he made the decision that he's going to stay close to the house. He's going to do an amateur circuit. He'll do the PRCA rodeos when they come in his area and kick their butts there. But, it's such a cool thing to see somebody with so much talent choose his family. This is a lifestyle. It's bigger than just a sport.
Well, his son-in-law is one of the best ropers around. And then isn't Sam like some sort of a horse therapist? I mean, he's kind of, absolutely. So they did a show. I think it was CSN, Brian, wasn't it CSN that did a show on him here a couple of summers ago?
Mm-hmm.
And,
really?
Yeah, and so they followed him around, and he's like a massage therapist for horses, and he's like the horse whisperer. And then he's got, a son-in-law who is Russell, I think was his name.
Yeah, Russell Cardozo. Yeah, and he's an amazing cowboy. He is. I always call him Russell Willis just to mess with him.
But yeah, that family. I mean, I'm telling you, They did a show on it.
That was cool.
Yeah, it was real cool. It only went for like a couple of seasons, and then it stopped. But it kind of showed the life into a rodeo cowboy family, and man, it followed him around. And Russell went on. I think that year he went on to the NFR, I believe. And but very, very talented family. And Sam is older, so Sam is probably maybe mid 50s maybe now, if that.
Yeah,
and so and he still competes.
He's still going at it.
He still competes. Wow. He's a beast. He's a beast.
Yeah, he is. He's a stud. You probably put him on a bronc right now, he'd win the bronc riding. I mean, he's that guy.
True story.
He's
Absolutely.
Absolutely. He's competitive.
And then
that's what rodeo needs more of, is shows like that to kind of showcase what we bring to the table. I think so many people, and especially animal rights people, and it's certainly not the discussion to get into, but I know that calf roping, or tie down roping as we call it, is one of the things that will turn people away from rodeo. But if they saw the human interest side of rodeo, which is why like the 30 for 30s ESPN is doing is so great. I mean, those are so good, and I've bought them all, watched them all. I love them because I love the human interest side. I love the backstories. And we just me and a co-host shot 7 episodes of a show that, fell through with the owner and producers and whatnot. But it would have been great because we spent 7 episodes interviewing guys, and we would take them out and we'd do something fun with them. Like we'd go to a weird hot dog stand in Kennewick,
Nice.
or we'd go fly fishing and take a bronc ride, get them away from the arena and try and talk to them and get what their life is like. I mean, you got to imagine these rough stock guys. You see them at a rodeo, you watch them compete for 8 seconds. What you don't see is that 4 of them pile in a Sprinter van that they've modified with bunk beds made out of lodgepole pine and drive 15 straight hours so that they compete the next day in that bronc riding or bareback riding. I look at a guy like Heath DeMoss, who's out of Louisiana. The DeMoss family is notorious for success in the bronc riding, and Heath is just, every time you see this guy, he is happy, he's smiling, he rides, he wins, he smiles, he rides, he gets bucked off, he smiles. And I'm like, how in the world can a guy like that just literally got out of a van after 17 hours from Texas to Missouri, or that would be 17 hours, but a long ways away, Texas to California. There you go. And he gets out and he's happy, and he's got 4 other guys in his van with him. I mean, it's a lifestyle that's fun. How do you keep yourselves entertained? What do you do? What do you when you haven't showered in 3 days? How do you? What do you do? Because they're all trying to cut costs, and the more money you save, the more dollars that end up in your pocket, obviously. So
it's a tough lifestyle. It really is, and that guy hasn't probably slept well in the last couple of days.
No, definitely.
And I remember growing. I don't think I've ever came across a grumpy cowboy. I know that they exist.
Sure.
But but you just described my interaction with a lot of the cowboys, always upbeat, and that he's hurting, and that he hasn't slept well in the last couple of nights. He might be really hungry because he's eating like crap as well.
Yeah.
And and it continues. They continue on down the road, and that's how stars are made.
Well, it goes to show what doing what you love will do to you. I mean,
that's true.
If you can be happy, well, most people would be miserable just because it's what you love,
I do anti-bullying assemblies for kids, and so I'll go in, being a school teacher, I try and stay involved with education, and I bring this little rodeo aspect with me and talk about, identifying and preventing bullying behavior. But one of the things that I tell kids about rodeo is it's the only sport where competitors work together to beat themselves. And I always end up saying that 2 or 3 times. It's the only sport where competitors work together to beat themselves. And you think about it, those 4 guys that drove down the road, the DeMoss boys, well, let's just take Heath and Cody. So those 2 guys are brothers. They love each other. They travel together. They care about each other. They show up at the rodeo. They help each other get ready. But when they're riding, they're trying to beat each other's asses. So it's amazing that this sport, promotes. We want you to work together. We want you to take care, to cheer for each other, but we want you to try to beat each other. And so Cowboys will help the guy. Even when they just rode for 87 points, went to the lead, he'll turn around and come back behind the chutes, and Heath will help his brother.
Right.
Or he'll help his buddy, his traveling mates. It doesn't matter who it is. They help each other, even though by helping that guy, you might set him up to beat yourself. It's a really weird sport, but it truly is one of those sports where sportsmanship, wins out.
It is, and it's, like you said, your brother's got an 87.5, and you're getting him set up, and yet you're hoping that he doesn't beat that number, but you still want him to do a great job. When it happens, you're a little bit bummed for a little bit, but that goes out because you're so ecstatic that he beat it. So once again, J.J. Harrison, Rodeo Clown and Entertainer. Hey, so here's a question, final question of the day for you. Do you have like a walk-up song like a baseball player would stepping up to the bat? When you come out into the arena, do you have a walkout song?
They always play something. Every sound person's a little bit different, but I'm a dancer. I mean, I love hip-hop dance, and I love jamming. I love just throwing any kind of, just because it's an easy thing to entertain people with.
Right.
And right now I am definitely, and this might be weird, good, bad, or indifferent, I am hooked on Bruno Mars. For some reason, he's like a Michael Jackson mixed with a Nelly or something. I mean, he's cool, and you can make fun of him, you can laugh at his goofiness, but the guy is a massive talent. He's like Justin Timberlake. You can't.
Yes.
You can say all day long, oh, he's just feminine, he's this, he's that, but the dude is wicked talented, and I can appreciate that. He can sing, dance, he can entertain.
Definitely.
And so I love it. The Bruno Mars, that's what I like. That song right now, they played that the last few times I walked out, and kind of I jammed to it a little bit. And, but at 41 years old, man, I'm going to have to start getting some slower music, or I'm going to throw a hip out,
So
how'd he go down? Well, he got really into his warm-up song, He got really into it and blew his hip out,
So you've said before that you live an unscripted life, but you've also hinted that you might be retiring in 2018. Is that still the plan, or are you still kind of playing with that?
I've got 2018. I've got a full season, so I've floated that out there for the simple fact that I don't want to book rodeos in 2019 yet.
Sure.
This season, especially, I'm talking to all the rodeos that I've done so far, and I'll do it everywhere I go. I want to meet with the committee, kind of on a very personal level, and just say, look, are we friends, and that's why you're hiring me? Or do I still get it done in the arena, and that's why you're hiring me? And if I'm still getting it done, then I'll keep going. I'll probably pull the reins in a little bit and stay a little closer to the house. But I definitely I don't want to be one of those guys that hangs on too long, and I've said that a lot. There's a lot of people that are in my profession that they don't have anything else to turn back to.
Right.
And so they hang on. They hang on real tight. And the tighter you grip, the faster it squirts out of your hand, So you gotta be able to walk away. And I think every athlete, and I call myself an athlete, you're told what's the movie? There's a movie quote. I think it's Billy Beane said it. We're all told we're going to have to quit the game. We just don't know when.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that's the actual quote. And I think he was talking to Billy. You can play baseball. We're all told we have to stop the kid's game at some point, but we don't get to pick when, and I want to pick. I want to walk away when I'm still good, when I'm still being a little bit sought after, so that my memory isn't tarnished in this sport. I want to leave a mark on the sport. And one thing that I've prided myself on, it's not a knock against beer companies, and people sometimes will think that. I've never accepted a dime from alcohol or tobacco, and I never will. I'll never take a partner. If I have to put Coors on my barrel, it's the rodeo's decision, and I never take a dime for that. And Coors would gladly pay. There's a great program that's out there, and a wonderful lady that runs this program. And it's great for a lot of rodeo clowns. It's not my cup of tea. I've prided myself on that aspect of me, and I think when you do the teaching aspect and so much stuff with kids, I think it's the wrong message when you're trying to get kids to listen to you, and you've got beer on your barrel. I just feel like I'll drink a beer. Heck, I'll drink a beer with, we go rafting and stuff. I don't drink so much at rodeos because that's my job.
Right.
Of course. Yeah.
But it's not an anti-alcohol campaign in any way. I think it's a great thing, and I've certainly had my fun with it. But I think what we have to look at ourselves as role models sometimes, and especially me, because I accept it. I take it on. I want to be a role model. I've got to live that life and kind of showcase that side of me.
Once again,
Cool.
JJ Harrison, hey, there is no doubt that you are one hell of an athlete.
Yeah, you're definitely an athlete.
For doing what you're doing. And, next time you're in McMinnville and, hey, come this summer when you're in St. Paul, give us a jingle. You got my number. Would love to catch up to you and meet you in person and watch you in action. And can't wait till that day happens.
Well, come down. Maybe we'll do something. We'll do something live from the St. Paul arena or something. That could be fun.
Brian is shaking his head. We'd love to. We'd love to.
It was great talking to you, JJ.
Hey, once again, thank you. And man, you are one of the greats in your profession. And thank you for entertaining and sticking to your guns. Being who you are, and I agree with you on the alcohol and the tobacco deal.
Yeah, I respect that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, thank you. Aaron Watson sings a song. These boots have roots, and that's what it's about right there.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a great dude right there. Aaron, talk about a self-made man.
Yes,
he's doing country music the way that Johnny Cash would do it. Again, and so I've got a lot of respect for him. I sure like him as a buddy and as an entertainer. He's fantastic. And to close it out, man, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for calling me. I appreciate what you're doing. And I'm a fan of sports. I'm a fan of team. And you guys are helping to keep that alive.
Well, thank you.
One show at a time, so appreciate it.
All right, like I said, hey, once you're in McMinnville again, and give us a jingle.
You bet. Giddy up, guys. Thanks, man.
All right,
We'll see you,
JJ Harrison. Brian, man, I could see you laughing over there, Brian. What are your thoughts here?
Lots of thoughts. I mean, JJ's awesome.
He is.
He really is. And I've seen a lot of rodeos in my time. Greeley Stampede, St. Paul Rodeo, been to the Sisters
Malala
one.
Sisters, Pendleton Roundup. I mean,
those guys are impressive. And it's fun to watch. And it's something that I don't totally understand, which makes it more interesting to me.
Neither.
right.
And it was one of the things that I love to take pictures of. Just going back to some of my pictures from St. Paul, I just realized how many I took of the clown there. It wasn't JJ, I don't think. But, I mean, seriously, they're a huge part of what's going on.
They are.
It's awesome. It's fun. It's great to hear somebody like JJ and just what he does. And really, not many people can do that.
Definitely.
No, absolutely. Yeah. You know... And I go back as a kid, growing up with rodeo and all the family friends and stuff like that. I've been around it a lot of my life, know, and it's a part of where I come from. It's part of who I am. And like I said, my parents would watch it up until, always watch rodeo. Mm-hmm. And to see people like JJ doing what he's doing, it's amazing. I mean, those guys are amazing athletes.
Well, and you talk about someone that fractured his spine and then
goes out and performs
4 days later.
I know. Does a Major League Baseball player do that?
No, because they're guaranteed contract.
Yeah, and NFL players do that kind of stuff.
Sometimes.
Not with the back, but
right.
I remember,
Well, Ronnie Lott lost his finger and went back in.
Brian Westbrook played a game with broken ribs one time, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a different lifestyle. It's a fun lifestyle, and he mentioned Sam Willis, and I remember that show on I think it was CSN that they did a show on, and it followed the rodeo family around, and it's amazing. It's amazing just the work that goes into it, and I know I've got friends who talk about animal cruelty part of it, but these guys do a great job of really taking care of these animals.
Well, and they love the animals.
Absolutely,
a lot of them really are in it for the animals,
Absolutely.
And they love spending time with cattle. And so, I mean, that's All
right, so once again, Joe Piazza, Brian Erickson, I'm Norm, and we are sponsored by Baseballisms.com. If you like my 42 hat, Baseballisms.com. We're also sponsored by Northwest Independent League Baseball. Dwayne Wangerham up there. Hey, give him a call. He's looking for players for this season up in the Portland area. NWIBL.org. Also, baseball dudes, to be the best, you must train like the best. Chris Gazelle up there in Vancouver, Washington. Mitch Canham, building an athlete sports education based by pros. His dad, Mark Canham. MDM Designs does our shirts for Clubhouse Chatter. We stream live every time we're on the air, yamhilltoday.com. And hey, if you got any ideas for shows or if you'd like to sponsor the show, normbo18@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter, Clubhouse Chatter 1T, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, Podomatic, MLB.com blogs. We're all over. Hey, we've got a special one coming at you. We're going to celebrate Jackie Robinson Day a week late. Carl Erskine,
former teammate,
friend of Jackie Robinson, is on next. You don't want to miss us.